Natasha, how are you?
Well, how are you?
I'm good. This is amazing how all this works, isn't it?
It was a little troublesome. I'm on my phone because I couldn't log in on my computer, but the same password got me in on my phone. So,
Oh, that's so funny. Well, here at Sandboxx, they make fun of how technically challenged I am. No kidding, we used to number our letters. I'm from that generation. So the thought that we can do this on the computer is just mind boggling to me.
they make fun of me, I'm sure.
Okay, so Natasha, I have to call you out on something right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm a Marine spouse.
Yay!
You're totally double dipping. Not only did you marry a Marine, but you married a chef. How did you do that?
We we just bonded over food in the beginning. I'm sorry, that's my 4-year-old.
Oh no, put him in the interview, her in the interview as well.
When he took a 2-year hiatus from the Marine Corps, and that's when
Okay.
we met. And he wooed me with food.
Oh,
That's
I
me.
love that story. We were actually going to ask you how you met, but I'm calling you out. You're double dipping, and I love it.
I'm one lucky gal.
You certainly are. Now, you're here in D.C., is that correct?
Yeah.
Very nice. And at the barracks?
Well, we don't live there, but we live out in Burke, Virginia.
Of
So
course, of course. Yeah, now, I don't know from your end if the connection is good, but the sound is going in and out. Are you still okay?
I can hear you great. I
Okay.
can try to move to a different room if you think that'll be helpful.
It's okay. I think we'll be all right. We'll be all right. It looks like you spend so much time out in the community. That's wonderful. Tell us about it.
I just love jumping right into the community, and volunteering is the best way that I've found to make a community my home. Because when you move from place to place, you have to say, see you later to old friends. You don't have your family there. So the first thing I do is just find out where can I help. And it's just a natural way for me, at least, to
Mm-hmm.
make friends. So if I'm doing something that I love and there's other people doing the same thing that I'm doing because they love it too, it's just a positive environment.
It is, and it sets such a great example for the kids, right?
Absolutely. Always volunteered with us. Our oldest daughter, this year, she's starting a cupcake stand with all proceeds going to the homeless, and she's going to donate all unsold cupcakes to the homeless as well.
Oh, that's so funny. Well,
Yes,
you'll
Jennifer.
appreciate this. At one point, we were stationed at the Naval Academy, and we were so fortunate to live on Parade Field. And we had four daughters, and they would sell water bottles, and their sign read, "Water bottles $1, all donations to their favorite fund." But then at the bottom, they put a big star, and it read, "But free for all Marines."
Oh,
So she has to have a free caveat in her signage.
absolutely. That's cool.
I read about this CAX for kids. Tell us more about that.
That was fun. I cannot take any credit. I was simply a volunteer in CACs for Kids. Um, Links stands for Lifestyle
Sure.
Insight Working. Um, in 29 Palms, we had an amazing Links facilitator, Amber, and we would put on CACs for Kids twice a year. And about 20 of us would volunteer to run the show. Of course, under Amber's, she's like a conductor in an orchestra. She's got everybody going left and right and
That's
has a
great.
during the planning meetings, we narrow down all the details. And then on game day, we have about 90 kids show up in the morning. And we have tanks, we had drones, we have all the combat gear out, MREs,
That's
and
fun.
passport stations where we all set up and talk about different duty stations that we've been to. And each kid gets their passport stamped after they've learned about each duty station. And I think the fun part we did was the relay races where they put on the gear, just black and Kevlar.
They're hilarious.
Right?
The helmets are probably bigger than their whole bodies, right?
Some of them, yes. We had so much fun with the relay races. That they would learn rank structure, and we had little memorization games for that. And then watching them eat the MREs. We always encourage parents to send a lunch because we didn't expect them to get a meal out of it.
No.
But to sit with our little groups that we had and just look at their faces.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was the best. Yes.
So what's the been so far the highlight of being married to the military?
Oh wow. Going to places and meeting people I never would have met before. I I like to meet other people. Naturally, I kind of tend to be introverted,
Hmm.
but in the military with my husband, you don't have that option if you want to thrive at all.
Sure, sure. That's great. Tell us your least favorite thing about being in the military. I think I already know what the answer is.
I don't know.
Is it saying goodbye?
Yeah, it is. But the great thing about the Marine Corps is it's so small that we never say goodbye. We say see you later.
Right.
Because chances are you're going to see him later. I think we're the smallest branch of the big four, So even if
I
I don't,
always found it amazing that you would think after having to say goodbye so many times and to so many different people that we would get good at it. I think it got worse. I just became this big ball of mush, and you're probably the same way. Yes?
yeah, my last duty station, we before DC, we had 4 weeks notice to pack up and move to DC. Like from the time we got orders to the
Yeah.
time the moving truck showed up. And I almost hermitized myself because I couldn't bring myself to spend the 4 weeks, over tears saying, see you later to everybody. I knew that we had to pack and get going. So I kind of holed up in my house and friends would come and visit me. And it was definitely not my favorite.
So you understand the phrase chosen family.
Absolutely.
Now, how many times have you moved?
4 duty stations, 10 homes, 4 duty stations.
So when you're home with your civilian friends and they ask you, what's it like to be in the military, what do you say?
Most of them, they've known me for my whole life, so they know a lot about it. Usually they're profusely apologizing when they vent to me about how their husband had to work a weekend. They're like, oh my God,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I can't believe it there. So I'm lucky to have some really encouraging friends. They kind of are starstruck by the whole military life.
It is glamorous. It can be, anyway.
Yeah, it can be. And then, like, I've gone home, usually when my husband deploys before the kids were in school. I'd go home for an extended period, and they know not to ask, how are you doing? Because I'm like, well, as long as you don't ask me how I'm doing, or as long as you don't say, doesn't this suck? I ignore the suck and I keep powering through. But once you
have to.
that barrier,
Sure. Okay, so do you have any funny stories about when you first became a military spouse?
gosh, how many?
For example, one that I was telling Sam about is the Eagle Globe and Anchor that they have on their cover. I didn't realize it was supposed to be dull, so one day I just shined. I mean, you could see yourself in that little black Eagle Globe and Anchor. Things like that you've done?
I think I put it in my biography. The funniest thing that comes to mind is when I was new and I did not know rank structure at all.
Oh, I had
And
no idea.
I ran up to a lieutenant colonel who was giving the welcoming brief at our installation. We were on the outside handing out packets to all the new guys on board, and I was determined to make sure that every person got that welcoming packet. So I ran up to this lieutenant colonel and I was like, "Welcome to River Air Station."
See, you were just doing your job so well, is how he left feeling that day.
And back then it was the key spouse, so our key wife, she was like, Natasha, he just gave the brief. He's been here a while. I'm like, oh.
Well, you just were making sure he knew everything about it. That's all.
Yeah.
Have you run into him since?
No, thank
Oh,
goodness.
good.
I'd be too embarrassed.
No, it's all good. He appreciated your efforts, I'm sure. Too funny. Now, how much longer do you think that you all will be in the area? Much longer?
Really lucky with my husband's job now is completely voluntary. So he has to request to leave the DC area, and he at any time can request to come back.
I see. It's amazing how different each base's personality can be.
Yeah.
Versus, say, in DC versus San Diego. Just, the base at Miramar, the flavor of it is so much different than being stationed here on the East Coast.
It is. Since nobody really lives at the barracks except for
Right.
the general officers and the commandant, and then the barracks, with all the single young Marines, I was lacking the continuity that I guess I've had at other duty stations where all the spouses, they're your neighbors, your kids grow up together and they play together. So DC was a challenge.
It is. Each base has its own challenges. So if you could send a message out to all of our military spouses, what do you think you'd tell them?
I would tell them to always jump into their community because there's way more good than bad out there.
There is.
You just define your outlet and build your village, and usually the best way to do that is through volunteering and just getting involved.
Great. Well, I've loved chatting with you, and I've thanked each of the spouses personally for your service. I told each and every one of them I never really got it when someone said thank you to me when we were active duty. Here it is years later, and I finally get what they meant. So even if you don't get it now, know that you are appreciated.
Thank you.